Pisco!
Directed by Carlos Reygadas, Post Tenebras Lux was first released in 2012 at its debut at the Cannes Film Festival and went on to win a 2012 Best Director award. The film was booed at the time of its premiere and went on to receive critical reviews following its release to the general public in 2013. At the time of this recording, it holds a 53% on Tomato Meter and a 50% on Popcorn Meter on Rotten Tomatoes. It proves to be a very divisive film with its jarring achronological plot, provocative depictions of animal abuse, nudity, and violence. Although the film gained thousands of harsh critical comments against it, Carlos Reygadas has stuck with his directive decisions against critics, stating, "I've always thought that intelligent viewers don't need to be led and will follow eventually. Something I find really strange is that people who saw the film here last night went to school, read books, and I say that not because I'm comparing myself, but think of the Metamorphosis by Kafka, which was written almost 100 years ago. Nobody knows if he really transforms into an insect or not, and there's no explanation, and if there was an explanation, I'm sure we wouldn't be reading that book anymore." The film roughly follows the relationship between Juan, played by Adolfo Jimenez Castro, and Natalia, played by Natalia Acevedo. Throughout the film, we can sense a tension between the two, and it's obvious that Natalia is under the thumb of Juan, who subjects her to his demented animal abuse, sexual desires, indecisive household decisions, maniacal outbursts, and narcissistic comments. Other characters we follow that have substantial plotlines are Siete, who works as a laborman working for Juan, as well as a tree poacher to the side. Siete eventually ends up shooting Juan in the event of him being caught stealing electronic appliances from him and runs away back to his family. Siete is giving a cold-shouldered welcome by his family after a much too late return. His wife lets him know that people were looking for him regarding the shooting of Juan. He hugs his wife and gets a cold stance in return. Siete tries to redeem himself by trying to apologize to Juan, but when he interacts with Juan's children upon arriving at his home, he's given the news about his death.
¿Dónde está tu papá?
Ven por nosotros porque papá ya se murió.
Out of guilt and volition, Siete rips his head off and lies dead in the field. His body's blood is washed across the field we once knew as innocent in the beginning of the film, and the cows return to graze. The movie battles between the themes of innocence and sin, more so the deterioration of innocence through the experiences of the human condition as we grow up. The first scene introduces us to our first taste of innocence. Throughout the entirety of the film, we can start to notice the only calm beings in the film are the animals and the children. As the film progresses, we can see the hardship, violence, abnormality, and brutishness that life has to offer, and it gives the viewer a sense of impending realization that soon, these children in a state of innocence will grow up to be just like their parents. The extent to which the human condition in this film destroys the image of innocence is also shown through the animals in the film. Jose's internal anger and dissatisfaction within his sexual desires leads to pent-up anger that translates into a violent outburst on his dog, as well as the rain of blood that bathes the cows after the suicide of Siete, which symbolizes the violence ongoing in Mexico. The rugby scene is also there at the end to mean that life goes on. We keep on playing and we need to play, disregarding the fact that it's raining blood in Mexico and heads are being torn off. Although Carlos's directive with this film may seem random and unrelated, there is a lot of meaning to derive from the film once you grasp Carlos's intention in using the film as a metaphysical metaphor to Mexico's history and present. Juan's juxtaposition within the town's community highlights a disparity between the lower and higher class in Mexico. We witness this in moments such as Juan's interaction with one of the locals at the party, who makes a remark questioning Juan's Mexican identity. This judgment against him could have to do with what Carlos identifies as the split between cosmogonies in Mexico, quoted as saying, "You can go broader and see this clash of not civilizations or cultures even, but this clash of cosmologies, two different ways of looking at life, and the ways those two enrich each other, but at the same time don't manage to connect." I really think Mexico is a half-breed culture in the sense of blood, of course, and in the sense of culture too. In the end, this ancient culture from the American continent and the European one did meld to a large extent, but on this cosmogonic level, really not at all. Like, if you would talk to me, we're talking now, I could be an American, not in the things I eat, but in the way I perceive life. Although Juan may have been born in Mexico and raised in Mexico, his identity lies in limbo when entrenched in his westernized way of living, one that is drastically different from the locals' approach to living. One scene in the film that sticks out to me is the second to last scene in the film. We watch as Siete walks towards an open field. Our subject stays focused in the center of the frame, whether it be his ears, hands, or pelvis. The movie's signature hazy ring draws our focus directly to our subject, leaving no room for our eyes to wander, especially in the tight 1:33 ratio found in the film. As to why Carlos decided to go with this look, Dan Sullivan best describes it. For Reygadas, this technique approximates the experience of looking through an imperfect pane of glass, and a distorted image is expressed the way in which visual perception is informed by a host of desires, however unconscious. Setting aside the symbolic dimension, the results are more than often not gorgeous. Through the imperfect pane of glass, we are equally shown the imperfect conditions and relationships these characters have. Continuing the scene, 3 trees fall as Siete looks out to the distance. These trees falling could be a reflection of him regretting the decision of putting the income of tree poaching over time with his family, which highlights the negative effects of his situation in order to properly provide for his family. It could also be a reflection of him regretting the decision to murder Juan, and the 3 trees could signify each of the family members left behind after his death: Natalia, Ruth, and Elazar. The symbolism of the trees used in Carlos's writing elegantly reflects on the actions of Siete and allows the viewer to feel what the film is communicating, not through words spoken, but through its stunning imagery. Siete's decision to commit the sin of greed and envy lines well with the themes of corrupted innocence and push to sin that the movie portrays. As the trees fall, Siete stares into the mountains in front of him and rips his own head off. The framing of Siete within the scene emphasizes his isolation and contrast to the vast landscape that lies around him. The methodical and slow-paced dolly track allows the viewer to tense up to the surreal suicide of Siete. His headless body laying on the field embodies a laboring figure oppressed by societal structures and serves as a visceral symbol of self-destruction, guilt, and despair, representing the toll of systemic exploitation on the working class. As the scene washes the field with blood raining on the pasture, it evokes a theme of the destructive consequence of human actions and the destruction of innocence as the cows graze on the bloody field. The scene's natural light darkens and the frame is filled with sprinkles of the blood's hue, emphasizing the intrusion on innocence and nature the human condition has cast upon it. The film finally ends on a scene with teens playing rugby against each other and ends on this line of dialogue which Carlos has admitted in an interview serves as a rebellious statement against the bangers in Mexico.
Get the better of us. We can beat this team. They've got individuals, we've got a team. So come on, let's go.
It's a dream, only a dream, and it's fading now, fading away. It's only a dream, just a memory without